G'day, Trooper Cody and Steve, and this video is in our police series, Australian police series. Wrong uniform, you might say. Not too far out of the era though. We're going to talk about the 1860s, so I'm only 35 years out with a early 1900s uniform. But the police story is about Australian bushranger, not Ned Kelly, but Mad Dog Morgan. Now, I wonder if you've heard of Mad Dog Morgan. Interesting if you have, because in the 70s a movie was made called Mad Dog Morgan, and it starred a terrific actor, Dennis Hopper. Made in Australia, Australian movie, but it had Dennis Hopper, you know, from Easy Rider. He played Mad Dog Morgan. And what's interesting, if you have heard of the term Mad Dog Morgan, the bushranger, Mad Dog Morgan, you've only heard of that because of the movie. That's because prior to the 1970s, and certainly at no time while he was alive, was Daniel Morgan ever called Mad Dog Morgan. People did research after the 70s movie was released just to find out the truth. You know, like I make these videos, what's the truth? So they did some research, and you know, all they could find was that the Adelaide Register newspaper, shortly after Daniel Morgan's death, recorded that one of Morgan's traits was that he would shoot and kill a human being no different to if it was a mad dog in the streets. That's the only reference that they can find, period reference, to the term mad dog. So Daniel Morgan, he was a lifetime criminal. His first formal conviction was at 17. He then became a confirmed hardcore bushranger, holding up stagecoaches, robbing people left, right and centre. But his history is interesting if you want to look it up on Wikipedia. It's interesting to read his full history. But he went to a station in New South Wales, not far from the Murray River, north of the Murray River. He went there when he was confirmed thief, bushranger. He went there to hold up the station, and what they recorded about his attendance there is he's already a well-known criminal, he's already a well-known bushranger, but the people that were there, and there were some that were, a superintendent was there and a magistrate was there, so they're educated people there. And what they say is his character was bizarre in that he could be friendly and happy one minute, psychopathic the next, maybe drinking too much out of pewter mugs, eating too much off of lead plates. But he was strange in that he seemed friendly after the robbery, went to ride off. The magistrate said, off the cuff, have they stolen stirrups on that horse? And Morgan just pulled out his pistol, turned and aimed at his head, and the magistrate, police superintendent, he put up a hand and ducked, got shot through the hand, turned to run away, got shot through the leg. Morgan then shot another person that was there. That person was wounded. Meanwhile, the police magistrate, the police superintendent magistrate, he ends up dying of his wounds a couple of days later. But the other cattle overseer who was wounded says, let me go and get a doctor. Changing character once again, Morgan becomes nice and says, yeah, okay, go and get the doctor. The guy gets in a cart to go off and get a doctor. Morgan sees him going, changes his mind, chases him down and shoots and kills him. First formal killing of a senior government official was in June of 1863. Finally, the government puts a significant reward on his head because now he's murdered somebody of importance. Amazingly, he gets away for the next 12 months. He's still not captured, he's still not caught, until 12 months later, in June of '64, he comes into contact with Sergeant McGinnity. What happens when he comes into he shoots and kills Sergeant McGinnity. A year later, he shoots and kills someone else. He becomes even more wanted. It's strange that we don't know as much about him publicity-wise as Ned Kelly, because this is a second police officer that he's now killed. Then, a few months later, in September of 1864, he crosses paths with Senior Sergeant Thomas Smythe. This officer is in the company of another police officer, yet Morgan gets the drop on them. He kills Smythe and escapes once again. So in New South Wales and Victoria, you can visit the graves of those three people. Watson was the first one he killed, then McGinnity and Smythe. There is quite a significant monument in memory of Senior Sergeant Thomas Smythe being gunned down by Mad Dog Morgan. So as is his style, I say Mad Dog Morgan, but remember he wasn't actually called that. That was only invented in the 1970s. But this man, this criminal, has a warped sense of his own abilities, perhaps, because he then turns up at yet another major station, cattle station, in Victoria, where there are lots of people in different forms of management. A family lives there. The family's wealthy enough that they've got a nurse and staff and a governess. And so this is the Peach Elba, the McPherson. It's interesting if you pick up on that name yet, McPherson. Depends how carefully you've watched my videos. But anyway, they come to the McPherson family station in Peach Elba, Victoria. While he's there, he gets everybody together, takes them all hostage, does what he always does, wants food, wants drink, wants to be catered for, holds everyone at gunpoint, has got such a fearful reputation as a psychopath that people quite willingly give in to him and succumb, do what he says. But what happens is that during the night, not when people are asleep, but when they're all gathered, a 10-month-old baby in a bedroom starts crying quite loudly and continuously. It annoys Morgan. The nurse, the baby's nurse, says, "Let me go and pacify the child." She goes into the bedroom and immediately climbs out the window and races to get help. Tips people off. Morgan's at the station. Once she's told, she races back, gets back, and she is able, maybe because he'd been drinking and carrying on, maybe because he was so big-headed, he never twigged that this nurse, when she came back into the room, had been and got help. She never says anything, nobody says anything. But Morgan has drinks, thinks he's safe, has a sleep, gets up the next morning. They talk about the fact that when he got up the next morning, he went into a bathroom, remember we're talking 1800s bathroom, and spent some time grooming his beard and grooming his locks. And it's just as well he did, because during the night, while he'd been in that house, you know what happened. Much like any decent Western you've ever seen, the house was surrounded by armed authorities. And when Morgan stepped out of that front door, there was no warning to this bloke. He was gunned down and killed. He was dragged into a barn. A couple of local photographers were called. And 2 separate photographers came, took pictures of him dead. People started 50 people, they reckon, turned up and started cutting bits of his clothes, hair and beard off as souvenirs before the police stopped them. So the police couldn't stop him, the authorities couldn't stop him, he killed police officers. He was on a rampage from when he was 17 for years. And what stopped him in the end? Perhaps when I give you the baby's first name, something might twig. The 10-month-old baby that cried, that allowed the nurse an excuse to go into the bedroom, an excuse to go and get help, the authorities to come and surround the house during the night, wait in ambush. That 10-month-old baby's name was Christina McPherson. Some of you may be going, yeah right, so 10-month-old baby, what does that mean? Others of you may have seen my video, which I'll link to this one, about the sex and scandal of Banjo Paterson and the writing of Once a Jolly Swag Man, camped beside a billabong. So you think that, you hear that tune? Once a jolly swag man, camped beside a billabong. Would you believe that 10-month-old baby later went on to be the very same Christina McPherson that wrote the tune to Banjo Paterson's Waltzing Matilda? Is that not, hang on, can you hear it? That's the theme music from the Twilight Zone playing. Because is that not incredible, the coincidence of that story? Rightio, there's something out of the deep, dark unknown. And very many thanks to Rod Sterling. That story is brought to you by Rod Sterling and the Australian version of the Twilight Zone. If you want to see more of Trooper Cody and Steve, make sure you subscribe, click like, write a comment, even if the comment is just you're a whacker, doesn't matter. Cheers, till next time, thank you.